Hi ladies, hope you're well. We're on the day 12. We actually have done a couple more progress on the days than I thought we have. And I calculated quickly and I realized, wow, day 12 already. And I'd like to continue with you today on the topic of the stress management, maybe a bit longer than 5 minutes, but I'm hoping you'll get some really cool info. And the objective is really today is to understand and to be aware when we're becoming stressed and how you can notice that in the future. So I'm going to base that explanation as well on a very good example of myself from yesterday. Or the last couple of days been really busy. I've been making lots of important decisions, and part of them was I decided to ride a bike again, and I bought a bike, and I was stressed or busy, tired driving to go and pay for it. There was a lot of traffic, and I arrived home pretty exhausted, and I felt so tired that I just could not move, and I sat there for about 20 minutes. I just needed a little nap just to recover. And so a lot of you probably can relate to that, and a lot of you have raised those questions saying, when I get so stressed, why am I eating all of this junk, or why I feel like I need to eat? Or, I do consume quite a bit of alcohol, not because I enjoy it maybe, but also because I feel like I'm getting relaxed after such a stressful day, or I have to juggle all of these tasks all the time and I can't concentrate on some of those, or I just feel so drained when I'm on the couch. And why is that? Because of the stress. So I'm going to give you a bit of an insight to try to understand why that even happens, physiologically and with different other aspects. So first of all, I want to do a difference between pressure and stress. So there are two different terms, and sometimes people see pressure that they receive within an environment, in personal life, but also, with all different things we have to do or in a job, and stress. And pressure and stress are two different things. So there's a very interesting graph, and I want to show you again with my pretty drawings, very fast ones, right? But if you can see this kind of spectrum here, and this line is showing performance, and this one is performance, and the straight one is showing pressure. And there's a different stages where we go through them. And what's important to understand is that if you do not have any kind of pressure or very little pressure, either within your job or within your life, then you can become very bored, because it's just no motivation there, and there's nothing you strive for, and so people get quite bored. Then if you have a certain amount of pressure coming and from different environment, you actually feel comfortable because you're learning something, for example, in your job, or you're comfortable with the task you're doing around, and you're feeling good. But once you start to learn it and you're comfortable with that, if there's no increased pressure, you might get bored after a certain period of time. The best area where we actually perform well within the job or outside in our private life is that when we are feeling a little bit stretched, so that we know what we're doing, but we get a bit more pressure from outside to learn something new, to develop something new, to take on some new job, new tasks, new areas of development. And this is what motivates us, drives us. And so that actual pressure is good for us, it's healthy for us, and it keeps our performance on top. But once we get over that and the pressure continues to increase, and we continue to become stretched within what we are doing, and it becomes too much, this is when it's starting to decrease and our performance starts to go down that way. And if it continues even further and we don't have a good coping mechanism to deal with that pressure, then we drop, and that's kind of the final area. It's called burnout syndrome. So then it's also important to understand that people, depending on their personality, can deal different with pressure. And depending on the type of you are, you could have a very low level of, let's say, coping line, where for you the pressure is okay, and once it comes above it, then you are become feeling it as a stress. And then some people have much higher threshold of coping, where a lot more pressure for them, it's fine, and they actually thrive on that and enjoy that. And only above that limit they become stressed, and it becomes unhelpful for them. And then also we in the next session we will talk about this coping mechanisms and how you can deal with that. So different type of personalities could be, some people just deal with that and it's like nothing happened. There was a certain kind of flow of stress and then they move on and continue. Some people see everything as a problem. It's a problem, it's a problem, it's a problem. Some people become quite aggressive, so they they can be, the character changes and they can really feel it. They become fiery and quick-tempered, they get, oh, this is annoying, or you like this. Or you can be very nervous and you start to back off, when there's too much pressure. You could be like, I don't really feel like doing it, I just really want to get out of it. And sometimes it could depend on the situation how you react. You could be sometimes more become aggressive, or you could be more backing out if you're uncomfortable with that. And there's different situations could be, but different type of people react differently to pressure. So then how does pressure affect our body? So there's a different actually areas of the body that you could feel, and next time you feel like there's too much pressure, you really maybe need to try to be aware of that. And this is where we're going to look at. So when the pressure is increasing, our body feels kind of threat to us, and we go into that fight or flight mode. It's really known well, and you can research more on the internet, but it's really like where the body's preparing. If it thinks it's a threat to your body and you're not going to survive it, so it releases hormones. It releases a lot of cortisol, and cortisol is really there. It's responsible for creating that extra energy that if you want to either fight your whatever's coming at you, or you want to run away. And the cortisol is also responsible to keep a high level of fats and sugar in your bloodstream to create that energy. So what does that mean? For some of you, example, when you said, I am getting stressed and I want to eat, I want to crave that croissant, like Evelyn said, this is where your body's thinking, okay, I need to create that energy to be able to run, to be able to fight that stress. So this is when I'm craving that energy, and that's when you want to get the fatty and sugary things, right? Then you also become very tense. If you're constantly stressed, your muscle are tense up because they're getting prepared to run or to fight, and that's why you always tense and you feel a tension in your back, lower back, somewhere. I used to have it as well. I feel it really in my lower back when I'm stressed. Then your heart beats faster. You get a rise blood pressure, and also all the blood drains from your stomach into your brain and your vital organs. So your brain, your heart, obviously your lungs, to be able to fight. So that's why you also can have digestive problems if you're eating under stress. So if you have limited time to eat, or you have no time to eat at all, or you're not even hungry because really you don't have all your blood is going into different organs that you need, and you cannot digest very easily. So this is why people recommend to eat in a calm manner and relaxed atmosphere so you can digest your food properly. So these are usually the effects. So sometimes and usually the body, once it's past that kind of stress period, it goes back to normal. It gets balanced, you relax, the muscle relax, you can, the blood circulation, the heart, and the hormones, they stop, so you don't have as much. However, in the environment we live today, obviously we have a lot more stress. And what people suffering from is a continuous stress. And it's not just physical stress, but it's mental stress. So we continuously have that pressure. And so that's why we never have that time. Your body doesn't have that time to relax, to go into that balance. And if you continue that pressure non-stop from morning till night, and you don't have those breaks to relieve that pressure and that stress, your body just feels exhausted. And it's mental, not just physical. And usually when your body creates that level of energy, a lot of energy, you need to release it somewhere. So if you don't release it through a physical activity, for the body it's much more difficult to get back into that balance. It takes much longer, and that's why you're feeling so exhausted on the couch, because the body just recovering much longer. So that's why people recommend, or it's recommended, to do physical activity, because you can release that, and the stress is released by exercising, by relieving that energy. So there are 3 indicators mainly when you are feeling under stress. One is the behavioral, so you can lose your self-control. I know that very well, and it could be a combination of 3. So losing self-control, poor concentration, you can withdraw, if you're very social but you're withdrawing, you want to keep the distance, you lose confidence in yourself. You could be also sad, apathic, feeling helpless. You can become aggressive, and you can also lose your humor. And knowing about that, I know a lot of those signs from me when I become stressed. Usually I lose my humor. I'm very strict. I can be apathic sometimes, just don't want to do anything. And I can also lose self-control, and I become quite aggressive. The second indicator is the health. So obviously everything linked with the health is the fatigue, insomnia, headaches. I do have sometimes headaches because of the stress, and I know that. Sometimes digestive disorders, and also in terms of the health side, people start to become, smoke a lot more or consume a lot more alcohol, and that also can be linked to the stress, obviously. And then the third symptom that no one wants to arrive at, obviously, after the first and the second one, those 2 play together. If the stress continues, then you can become have some health issues. So it could be you can have a heart disease. Mainly, you could see also immune system. When your immune system just totally goes down the hill and you're constantly getting sick, is because you never recover from that continuous stress. People notice it a lot as well when they have a continuous stress over a week or 2 period, like with really busy work and travel, that once they stop, the body just goes and you're sick for a number of days. We know that a lot, or preparing for Christmas or whatever it is. And then obviously the burnout syndrome as well, which is well known, where the body just totally knocked out. And really these are the signs we're showing you, okay, you need to change the way you're coping and relieve the pressure and the stress, or develop better coping mechanism to deal with that, not to arrive at that stage. So now, obviously, we're living in that environment, which is not easy. And while we're also building the stress, there's so many factors of our modern society that are creating that stress and that pressure for us, right? So one of the main pressures for us, as well as women, we know a lot, is that we are trying to manage our careers. Before, we didn't have that need. Let's say women were not on work. Now we're working the same as men. We're taking on a lot of positions as a man. We want to do a career. And for us, obviously, that balance between taking care of the house, the children, these responsibilities, and doing the career puts a lot of pressure on us, right? Also for the men, now the men are kind of more considered as, oh wow, this women taking the position they shouldn't be taking, and that can create stress as well. Then this long hours culture. Now the companies are becoming more competitive. There's always a risk of losing a job. Before it was never the case where you had a long-term job, and now it's more limited contracts. And there's a lot more competition on the market and in your team. So everyone is believing in that culture that first you have a lot more workload that we used to have, but also this long hours culture to prove yourself that, you know, when you come in very early and you leave very late, is that you are dedicated to the job. So this is built to the confidence in having that job and maintaining that job, and then being present, that sickness of being... My son is talking, you can hear everything. That presence of being always in the office is the one that creating a lot of pressure on us, because you want to show that you are there. And also the technology. Before we never had that, but now all that pressure with the emails, with the constant communication, the phones that always, the emails that always arrive 24/7 on your phone, and you always have to be available. And that really creates such a pressure environment for everyone, that they constantly are bombarded by the communication and by all the exchange of information that we have. And then also we work a lot more closer together with people nowadays. So the management styles are different. You can have, if you have stress with the managers that you're working with, with your colleagues, the competition within the team, not such a good working relationships. All of that can really create extra pressure. That because we are surrounded by the people and we always have a lot of exchanges with them. So all of that is really, the pace of work is also so fast. We're constantly moving, working, and then it's just fast paced for everyone. So all of these things were not existing before as much as we have now. And obviously this environmental impact is also on how we deal and how much pressure we get nowadays. So to summarize, so the pressure is good if it stretches us. So, but if we get more, we become stressed, and that's where we see the symptoms. So, same pressure can affect people in different ways. So, depending on your personality and the way your coping mechanism that you have in place, it could impact differently. Pressure comes from the variety of sources, as we discussed. So, it can come from family environment, from job environment, from all kind of areas. And then we can spot the change, the stress very easily. And these are the three symptoms that I talked about. Is the one really the behavioral change. So if you see someone, being very aggressive to you suddenly, but usually that person is under stress. It's not something known the person would act. Then health stress. So reasons for, either grabbing sugary foods, consuming too much alcohol, tension in your muscle, not being able to sleep, and then obviously really the sickness, immune system issues and so on. And then we can also, one of the interesting points that I forgot to mention is we can also allow our stress to affect other people. So when you're stressed and you're dealing with the person opposite you, you either hide your stress and you just pretend everything is okay. You can relieve it on that person's stress, so you can actually pass it on, and then that person after will go away and will also become stressed because you're relieving it on them. And that's also something that we need to be aware of. So the homework is for you guys is to think a bit. You're probably already aware, but I'm hoping that gives you a bit more understanding why you react certain ways, and we are all different, obviously, to that. And then tomorrow we're going to talk about different ways of how you can cope. We already know some of them: breathing techniques, walking, exercise, relaxation. But then maybe I can give you some more practical little examples so that we can all work together to try to relieve it. But being aware first where the stress is coming from and why you react certain ways will already help you to try to de-stress and keep it down. Okay? I hope you enjoyed that, and please comment if you have any questions. I'm sorry, the light comes through my office now. All right, speak to you soon. Bye-bye.